Aloha, I'm Denise Yamaguchi, the Executive Director of the Hawaii Agricultural Foundation, and thank you for joining us tonight. Before we start, I'd like to send a big mahalo to our sponsors, Alexander and Baldwin, Bear, Kamehameha Schools, Kona Brewing Company, Lend Lease, Mahi Pono, Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits, the State of Hawaii, and the Ulupono Initiative. The Hawaii Agricultural Foundation launched Each Think Drink in November of 2016 in an effort to spark meaningful conversations about important agricultural and food issues facing our community and to build and engage a larger network of conscious and caring consumers like you. This 12th episode of Eat, Think, Drink and the second part of our monthly Open for Business series to provide a platform for our partners in other businesses and trade organizations to share their stories to their constituents. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii, Hawaii Food Industry Association, Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association, the Hawaii Restaurant Association, the Hawaii Retail Merchants Association for being part of this monthly virtual series. For tonight's episode, we partnered with the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii to share the stories of Hawaii female business owners who have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Our program will run a little longer than the usual 1 hour, as we wanted to give all of our speakers a chance to share their stories. It is my pleasure to introduce Sherry Minor McNamara, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii, who will set the stage for tonight's discussion. Sherry?
Hi, Denise. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And it's such an honor and pleasure to partner with the Hawaii Agriculture Foundation, as well as you. I mean, Denise, talk about power, female power. You exemplify a female who has shown what leadership and what grit is all about. And so, thank you for all the work that you have done so far and really creating a movement. So like you said, I'm also excited to hear from our esteemed panelists. No doubt COVID-19 has certainly hit our small business community hard, many with devastating impacts. And more devastating, and the reason for this discussion is that many of women-owned businesses have been hit. And here in Hawaii, 25% of the small businesses are owned by women in our community. And we recognize that some of the contributing factors include the lack of childcare for their young families, and the fact that they lead organizations in industries that are most affected by the shelter-in-place mandates, such as restaurants, hospitality, beauty, and health services, and gyms as well, as this will be demonstrated by many of our panelists today. Even though women have been most impacted by this pandemic, more than their male counterparts, I think women have shown that we are more resilient. Again, this will be demonstrated by our panel tonight, that women are strong, creative, and determined, and that each of them has risen to the challenges to pivot, create new avenues of revenue, and refuse to close the doors without a fight. So the spirit of Wahine business here in Hawaii is strong and powerful. And I'm personally, again, looking forward to tonight's conversation. So before we get started with the panel discussion, however, at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Leslie Gabriel Harvey, President of Hawaii Economic Association, for her presentation on the economics of women-owned businesses.
Aloha, and thank you so much for having me, the Hawaii Ag Foundation and the Chamber of Commerce. I am going to share my screen here with you folks. See my presentation. All right. My name, as Sherry mentioned, is Leslie Gabrielle Harvey. I am a longtime Hawaii resident and owner of the Hawaii Business Consultancy. I'm also a longtime board director with the Hawaii Economic Association, having been named president at the start of the year. Although I'm not a practicing economist, I do engage in a lot of economics, having a Master's of Science degree in economics and wearing my various hats, as I'm sure many of you can relate. I serve on the board and then also as a business consultant, working with companies across the state to find funding support for nonprofit projects, facilitate strategic planning and other business support activities, and most recently, provide assessments to support companies in finding opportunities and leveraging weaknesses during this very uncertain and very strange time. Today, I have been asked to speak on the impact of COVID-19 on women in business. As we're all aware, this has been a truly unprecedented time. Seems the only consistency during the last 6 months of this global pandemic has been the uncertainty it has wrought on public health and the global economy. When this first hit Hawaii, as I'm sure many of you can relate, it was not at all envisioning still being in the thick of this nearly 6 months later, yet here we are. And with winter quickly approaching, close quarters, as well as the family gathering factor surrounding the holidays, an increase in cases is likely. The point of all this is to say that we're very far from concluding any sort of impact of COVID as it's still continuing. So I'm going to walk us through some national and state level data sets to provide context to the larger discussion. All right, we're going to begin with an overview of national statistics and then talk about Hawaii-specific considerations. And just a warning, the data, ever so frequently changing as the pandemic evolves, changes markedly month to month, so bear with me as we look through a few various data sets. Now, I am sure we have all been seeing more and more of these headlines and the aptly termed she-cession. Women are leaving the workforce in droves, as I'm sure you've all seen in these headlines. I want to take a look back to sort of set the stage for this discussion. For comparison purposes, in 1920, these were the top 10 occupations that employed the largest number of women. And just really focus on the top 5 here. We're going to compare to about 100 years later. And so we see nearly 100 years later, 2018, the top 10 occupations have changed somewhat, and some of the categories changed. So I'm sure that there's some overlap that we can't quite appreciate. But I will point out that teachers in the previous data set went from number 2 down to number 1, up to number 1 here. Today, women make up about 30% of employees in the top 10 occupations, which is down from the peak of nearly 70% in 1950, which shows the number of women who were employed in these female majorly occupied industries. Nationally, the unemployment rate among women peaked at 16.2% in April, when 13.5% of men were unemployed. However, we then began to see headlines about women's recovery being quicker as the unemployment rate began to fall. And while the unemployment rate declined from 8.4% in August to 7.9% in September, we have to wonder how much of that is from women leaving the workforce. Women in prime earning years, ages 25 to 54, dropped out of the workforce more than any other age group. 77%, this box here on the left, were looking for work in February, while that figure dropped to 74.9% looking for work in August. Now, this was most pronounced among Black women in this age range. Participation was down 5 percentage points since February, compared to 4 percentage points for Hispanic women and 2 for white women. Overall, the drop translates into 1.3 million women exiting the labor force since February. Now, looking at the August to September period, women over 20 in the civilian labor force exited the labor force at a much larger rate than men. 865,000 women left the labor force in September as compared to 216,000 men. Quite a large difference. Leaving the labor force or not participating in the labor force means those who do not have a job and who are not looking for one. So yes, it does reduce the unemployment rate because these folks are no longer considered unemployed if they've left the labor force, but it's not really the full picture. If we look at a year-over-year comparison, September 2019 to September 2020, what we see is much more startling. Note that these figures are in the thousands. So what we're looking at here is 51.5 nearly million women not in the labor force in September 2019. And then by September of this year, that had increased to 54, about 0.5 million women not in the labor force in September. So that's more than 3 million women who exited the labor force since last September. And remember, that means those who do not have a job are also not looking for one. We can really clearly see the outsized impact on women, particularly as compared to men in this country. But the questions are, what are the reasons for this? And is there more to the story? Well, there are a few theories at play, and I'm sure each of us could identify a few others from our own experiences. The very first factor is that women entered the pandemic at a disadvantage. Nationally, they earned 82 cents for every dollar that men earn. And according to the National Women's Law Center, the wage gap is even larger for working mothers and fathers at 70 cents on the dollar that women earn. To pile on to that, 80% of US private sector workers, so this is not government and not self-employed, have no access to paid family leave, which is not mandated by federal law. And in a two-parent household, the primary wage earner is often protected strategically. If we consider the wage gap that I mentioned earlier, whether at 82 cents or 70 cents on the dollar, it's logical that if someone needed to stay home with children or to attend to other family members, it would be the person earning less. So that oftentimes, because of this wage gap, ends up being the woman. And in addition to the pandemic and economic depression that followed, already putting people out of work, these factors, among others, create a disincentive for women to stay in the workforce. It's pretty clear that there is a disproportionate impact on women in business. And to add to the previous variables, female-dominated job sectors and industries such as teaching, nursing, leisure and hospitality, as Sherry mentioned, and education have been impacted the most. Women of color and younger women are impacted at greater rates, with 24% of women between the ages of 20 and 24 being unemployed in May, and 27.8 and 29.2 for Black and Latina women, respectively. These are national figures. And all of that points to unemployment. Between February and May of 2020, 11.5 million women lost their jobs. Overall, the unemployment rate for women in May was 1.7 times higher than the highest unemployment rate for women during the Great Recession. Now, this is a look at the national figures, and in Hawaii, we are seeing very similar trends as to what's happening nationally, though it's magnified by our reliance on hospitality industries and the fact that those are typically dominated by females. So next, we are going to turn our attention to Hawaii. Before the pandemic, Hawaii women were making just 83 cents compared with every dollar made by Hawaii men. And to look back here at more historical trends to again set the stage for us, we can see the historical share of Hawaii's workforce through 2009. This trend mostly continued where men were about 51.9% of the workforce and women 48.1% pre-pandemic. Hawaii's employment distribution is shown here by industry and by gender. During this period, 2012 to 2016, the male to female ratio in Hawaii's workforce, as I mentioned, was 51.9% male and 48.1% female. Now, what I wanted to point out to you is that there were 7 industries with higher share of female workers than the state average of the 48.1%. That's what makes this interesting. Healthcare and social assistance, you can see here, had the largest share of female workers at 73.3%, followed by educational services at 68.4%. These two industries had more than twice as many female workers as male workers. And just a note on the Hawaii level data, much of the data published locally doesn't show the gender differences that would really allow us to have this more meaningful look at what's happening here locally. And that's okay, we can still get a lot of takeaways from this. And then also with how rapidly COVID is changing everything, the data is just not published frequently enough to be able to look back, say a month ago, and take a hard look at these different data sets. So this is a snapshot of unemployment claims by industry in April. The blue bar represents the industry's share of the pre-COVID workforce, while the orange bars represent the share of claims made within the industry in April. When the orange bar, see over here, exceeds the blue bar, see really clearly over here, this group is overrepresented among the unemployment claims. As so clearly demonstrated, the accommodations and food service industry was hit the hardest, with 27,000 of the 70,000 early claims. During a typical year, these jobs make up 21% of our non-government workforce, but they represent 46% of these claims. You can really see how, hardly hit this industry was. And in looking at unemployment insurance claims, the majority of these claims in normal times are from men, largely attributed to the volatility of the male-dominated construction industry here locally. So just keeping that in mind, that typically these claims are coming from men in normal times, even though the state's workforce, as I mentioned previously, is split almost equally between men and women. Remember, it's 51% and 49%. The shutdown, at least in the early periods, and this was in April, seems to have had a disproportionate impact on women, who make up 57% of the claims. Here's the unemployment insurance claims, likely because, as we discussed, they are heavily represented in the service sector industry. And fast forwarding a few months, we take a look at the UHERO survey that was published in late August. I believe that was in coordination with the Chamber, who found that 17.7% of businesses owned by Hawaii women had shut down, compared with 11.3% of businesses owned by men. And this is based on a 51% ownership. So women are represented by at least 51% ownership. So as we've seen, and I'm sure you're all aware, as in your daily lives, women have been hit very hard. Looking ahead, with the current cases averaging less than 100 per day, we are on track to progress toward Tier 2, which would extend reopenings to personal care services like massage and indoor gyms at reduced capacities. Although promising, on the other side of this, we have federal unemployment benefits that expired in September, yet still some businesses are closed. Still, that sort of federal support would be very beneficial to our local community. And while the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations has launched a call center, upgraded its computer systems, and assembled volunteers at the convention center to process claims, there are still reports of bureaucratic snags in getting claims processed. And while the state reports that 95% of claims have been processed, there are still those that are caught up in the system, and those who may not have been eligible, for unemployment as self-employed or other types of workers. Many are still facing looming bills and financial hardship. While we're still in the thick of things, projections on when we might return to normal or recover are very tricky given the uncertainty of the variables involved. A few of those shown here. Broadly, Hawaii's economy is expected to achieve a meaningful recovery by the middle of next year of 2021, assuming that tourism begins to rebound later this month. UHERO reports that an optimistic scenario includes the availability of rapid COVID tests, which leads to faster tourism recovery. On the other side of that, a pessimistic scenario in which a third COVID wave arrives in the winter and a vaccine is not available until later next year, which would point us in the direction of a slower long-term recovery. Federal aid that supports residents would be one contributing factor to support a more robust recovery, but as I mentioned, many of those benefits ended. So the takeaway from this is that we will recover. Economies go through these cycles like this, and we will definitely recover. But the question is really the harm done in the meantime, as there is so much uncertainty and already so much harm that has been endured. The traditional workplace model affords very little flexibility in this time of uncertainty that is anticipated to continue for quite some while. As I started off, winter is quickly approaching, and certainly that is going to have an impact on COVID cases. This traditional workplace model disproportionately impacts particularly women of color. Vulnerable populations, including those in vulnerable occupations, of which many are women, are also at risk for disproportionate impact. About 213,000 workers, just under 40% of the private and self-employed workforce, are considered economically vulnerable because they work in a vulnerable occupation, including food prep and serving, transportation and material moving, personal care and services, education, and other industries. There's also concern that recovery efforts don't consider the full impact on women. Besides the economic and public health impacts that are more apparent, women are at particular risk of increased domestic violence, sex trafficking, including sexual harassment and coercion by landlords, interruptions to abortion access on the neighbor islands, and the increasing pressure on women who serve as caregivers, as well as other longstanding gender inequalities. So with that, I want to point you to some additional resources, and I would be happy to make these available, although these may be resources that you're already aware, information that may be of interest, and the DBED resource page here at the top. So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time to tune in today. And to those who have been lucky enough to continue working or have not faced the extreme financial hardships faced by so many, I am one of those people. Be grateful. The pandemic has been so brutal for so many people here in Hawaii and around the world, and extending some extra understanding and graciousness to those who haven't been as lucky, and considering what we can do, supporting small, local, and women-owned businesses. And if you're in a role to provide additional support, consider unique ways that you can help, discounted services, promoting brands that you love, things like that. And with that, I will turn it back over. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I mean, the data is very telling, and it just goes to show that there's so much more work we need to do to help women, and as well as women-owned businesses, especially during this time. So thank you so much for that presentation. Okay, now let's get started with a panel discussion. So here's another Wonder Woman. Moderating tonight's discussion is Kanoe Gibson. You may know her from Hawaii Now on Hawaii News Now, which she co-hosts with Kainoa Carlson. But she also owns a small business, Nita Fishing Innovations, with her husband, and is a mother of two. So Kanoe, thank you for being here with us tonight and to moderate a panel discussion.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for having me, and also to Denise and her entire team for picking me. As we heard, this is the 12th session, and I'm a big believer that the number 12 is a holy number, a biblical number. So I'm hoping that we're taking a turn after Leslie's report. I think we all need a drink, but we are really here to hear some success stories and hopefully get some inspiration for moving ahead and from where we're at. So I am excited for the women that we are going to hear from tonight. We do have a very esteemed panel of women. And of course, if you are tuning in tonight, we do want to encourage you to please have questions available. You can actually type those right into the Q&A portion, and we will be fielding those questions to be able to ask our panelists tonight. So have those ready at any time. You can type that in, and we will have that towards the end. But first, we just want to get to know all of our beautiful women here. So I'm not going to take any more time. The first lady that we are introducing is actually somebody I've kind of been stalking on social media. I haven't met her in person. Dr. Summer Chong. I feel like you've made it if you are called by both your first and your last name. You can't call her Summer. You can't call her Dr. Chong. She's Dr. Summer Chong. It's got to be all there. She is a dermatologist with Oahu Dermatology. Dr. Chong, if you could please tell us a little bit more about your story, and especially during this time, and how you guys have actually pivoted during this pandemic.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. That was so sweet. So my name is Summer Chong. I am a board certified dermatologist, and I am representing a small private practice, Oahu Dermatology. We are a small business comprised of 3 female dermatologists, so Dr. Carla Nip Sakamoto, Dr. Miki Garcia, and myself. And we are located over at Queens. So, in my day-to-day practice, I offer, a variety of services and products that are really geared towards kind of helping patients achieve healthy and beautiful skin. And so, COVID has definitely affected our practice kind of negatively. During the initial shutdown back in March, our patient volume decreased dramatically. Many people were scared to come into the office. They felt their dermatologic needs could wait. And as a result, our revenue went down. We were actually forced to furlough most of our employees for a period of time, but we have learned to pivot and turn things around. We've incorporated telemedicine into our office and learned to kind of just make adjustments to our workflow, alter in-person visits, and that's how we've kind of risen above.
Okay, I'm excited to actually hear more from you in just a little bit. We're going to shift over to Bernice De Los Reyes, the co-owner of the Mango Tree Fitness and Martial Arts, another social media friend of mine who has a hot little bod. And so tell us about your business and what you all have been doing during this time.
Hi, I'm the co-owner of the Mango Tree Fitness and Muay Thai. We're located in both Kapolei and Kaimuki, and I run the business with my husband, who does all of the martial arts, mostly Muay Thai, and I run all the fitness and the nutrition side. So during COVID, as you know, we've had to close our doors and we had to pivot, and we had to do more online training, and that was a lot of work to start, because it's not the same as being with someone in person. So I was able to start a women empowerment group online through training, and it's been fun. So, yeah.
Hey, we all need to know how to join your women empowerment group. It sounds like we all need at this point.
Yeah.
How do you, really quickly?
How old am I?
No, how do we join that group?
Oh, how do you join my group? You can message me on my Instagram or my Facebook.
Okay, got it. We will do that. We'll get back to you in just a bit. Up next is Deidre Harvey, the owner of Zoe Lash Pro. And look at her. She's just stunning. Gorgeous, beautiful. Hi, Deidre.
Thank you. Hi.
And what you all are doing at this time.
Okay, hi, my name is Deidre Harvey. My studio is called Zoe Lash Pro. We are a beauty studio located in Kaka'ako. We are in the Nalulani Plaza, kitty corner from Whole Foods. COVID-19 definitely has affected our business. Currently, our studio is closed. We are in tier 1, but we're supposed to open in tier 2. So hopefully next week, Thursday or Friday, we'll be able to open. If we do open next week, Thursday or Friday, it'll be 4 months that we have been closed so far this year since the first lockdown. So definitely devastating for our business. Revenue has been down almost 45% compared to last year. But as far as pivoting, we're definitely pivoting in our own little way. We are selling custom designer lash strips using lash extensions for our clients. So for our clients that are without lash extensions right now, not able to come to our studio, we are designing these strips with lash extensions on, being able, so that they're able to have something in the meantime.
I love it. I know some of us have got, 4 lashes still hanging out there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Having you back, but appreciate the strip lashes. All right. Next, Jan Hori, the co-owner and co-founder of Hawaiian Pie Company. And if you have not tried her pies, you have not lived. So Jan, tell us about your business. I know it's a long-standing family business. How have you guys been doing, and what have you shifted?
Hi, Kanoe. Good to see you. As you know, we are a family business, and it's been a challenge, especially because we have 3 generations of bakers in our workplace. So to keep everyone safe and, healthy, we've had to really make some adjustments, especially for our front of shop sales. We now have reduced our our hours. We only go a shorter period, and with less days. We only work we only sell to the public 3 days a week. Everything has to be pre-ordered now online, and we actually do car service. So, people pull up, they already have pre-ordered, and we just have it delivered directly to their car. So it's worked for us. We are down in revenue, but we've been fortunate that our frozen pie sales in the grocery stores have actually picked up, because people are home baking and their families are home. So yeah, fortunate for that.
All right, thank you so much, Jan. Up next, Summer Shiigi, owner and designer of 10 Tomorrow, which is a clothing company. And I know, Summer, you guys have a local business that you are proud to have everything right here in Hawaii, from manufacturing and everything that you do. So that can be extra tough. But tell us a little bit about your story.
Thanks. Yes. So my name is Summer Shiigi. I'm the owner and designer of a local clothing brand, 10 Tomorrow. We have a unique space in Kaimaki. So the bottom floor is a cute little boutique where you can find our collection, as well as a few other local female-owned brands. And then the top space is where we do pretty much all of our manufacturing, the cutting, the sewing, the designing, the patterning. And COVID is definitely hit us. We're retail, so we had to shut down originally and we stopped production. But our team is really small and I feel really lucky. We pivoted, we started making masks. We started doing, pushing everyone to e-com, and we have such a great customer base. And now that we're allowed to open, we're trying new things, a little bit like a custom design system here and virtual trunk shows. So yeah, just trying to stay creative and innovative this whole time.
All right. I hope to hear more about how you guys have shifted online. I know a lot of businesses are needing to do that. So thank you. Up next is Gayla Young, the owner and founder of Pipeline Bake Shop, home of the cake bombs and the mala mode. If you haven't had that, again, you haven't lived. But Gayla, good to see you again as well, at least on this screen. So tell us about your business. I know you guys were actually closed for a little while, but how are you doing and what have you done to pivot?
Yeah, so my name is Gayla Young. I'm the owner and founder of Pipeline Bake Shop and Creamery in Kaimaki, right not too far from Summer's 10 Tomorrow. We opened up in 2014. We do everything homemade from scratch on site. We pasteurize our own ice cream. Have a fairly small crew. We're still pretty much family owned and a small business. COVID has affected us in numerous ways, and we had to shut down, shift pretty quickly. Pivoting is like the key word that everyone's mentioned here today, and it's definitely not any different with us. And it forced me to actually just kind of reinvent my business, so to speak, and have to shift. We're doing nationwide shipping now. So we had a good amount of tourists that used to come in. And so we're able to ship all 50 states. And so that's worked out really great for us. We're able to just supplement some of our cash flow and revenue by doing new things and different things. But it's definitely different.
Yeah, I know it's a tough one, but wow, 50 states. Okay. Now we did hear from Leslie Gabrielle Harvey, business consultant and president of the Hawaii Economic Association. But Leslie, you gave us a wealth of knowledge and information and education. But tell us about your business and what you guys are doing.
Sure. I have been in business about 10 years. I started with a focus on getting funding support for organizations around the state, some mainland companies. My company's raised over 50 million for mostly Hawaii companies. And actually just before COVID, I sort of pivoted to a broader focus in providing just general consulting services, strategic planning, operational planning, assessing current business systems, things like that. And I've been very fortunate in that a lot of the projects that I was involved in continued during the pandemic, just as a result of federal funding that had been allocated, was still allocated, things like that. So I'm very fortunate, and I've put a lot of time into trying to help companies access resources, partnerships with the Small Business Administration, DBED, to put on webinars and different things.
Okay, good to hear. Good news, of course. We always want to hear that encouragement that there are businesses that are doing well. So thank you for that. All right, we're going to shift a little bit here and get to know all of our panelists a little bit better, asking a little bit more focused questions. So I'm going to start again with Dr. Summer Chong. I know that you have a really long list of accomplishments, and here in Hawaii, we tend to be a little bit shy about it. I don't know, you can call it our Asian culture or what have it be, but you know, a lot of people are very humble here and afraid to even talk about their accomplishments. How are you able to do that with confidence and in a place where you can motivate or maybe inspire other people?
You know, I think humility is definitely a virtue that I value, and you know, something that of course is important in Hawaii. But I also think it's important to just be confident in your skill and promote your accomplishments in ways that, of course, feel comfortable for you. You know, my approach has always been to own my success by kind of remaining humble, acting professional, and just giving my all each and every day to deliver quality care for my patients. And I will say social media has been really a great platform to allow me to kind of showcase my expertise and hopefully serve as an inspiration for other women.
It definitely has. That's how I became your follower. So thank you for that. Wear your sunscreen, everybody. I know I get that wrong. Okay. All right. Well, Bernice, with your background in and I know a lot of us are struggling right now with that COVID-19. We're eating all kinds of food just to even deal with the stress, or, you know, having to eat out a lot. So, you know, in the case that we don't want to turn to the chips or chocolate for immediate stress relieving gratification, what would you recommend for us?
Well, I just wanted to say that chips and chocolate aren't that bad for you, but it's all about moderation, right? We don't, once you want to take it away, you're going to want it more, right? So just wanted to say it's not bad. And so, but in the case where we're thinking about our weight, lower calorie foods are definitely my go-to. So bananas and apples with peanut butter. So higher fat and higher protein foods make you feel fuller quicker. And so maybe a handful of grapes, yogurt, you can throw in some fruit in there, maybe some chocolate chips too. And then cheese and nuts are also a good option. Eggs are one of the best protein sources too. So yeah, those are some options that I have.
Okay, I love it. Sounds good. All right, Deidre, you have a very successful Instagram page. You know, Dr. Chong was mentioning social media. You have over 7,000 followers. We all need some advice because we know that's a big part of having a business is the social media part. So give us some tips.
Okay, so I think there's a lot of tips, but we'll just kind of put it into maybe like 5 or 6. But number one, I would know who your target audience is, right? Everybody's different depending on your business, your brand, whoever you are. So know your target audience. Second is content. I can't emphasize that enough. Make sure it's good quality and it carries a lot of value, right? Most importantly, you want to make sure that you give something to your followers that they want to see, that they value or is important to them. Number 3, you want to measure and analyze the social media, your Instagram's ROIs. You want to make sure that you look at your comments, your likes, your views, your engagements, insights, saves. Number 4, you want to make sure you engage with your clients. Make sure instead of just pressing that heart button or leaving a nice emoji face for comments, you know, you want to make sure you really engage with them, build a relationship, be authentic, ask questions. And then lastly, I would say Instagram stories are really effective. There are, I think, 500 million active daily users on Instagram stories, and the algorithms are pretty consistent on the stories.
That big word, algorithms. Okay. Thank you very much for that. I know that's a tough one to kind of navigate. Well, obviously all of us are kind of dealing with this fear of failure, especially in this time of the unknown. So Jan, you know, as a female business owner, how do you deal with the fear of failure?
You know, when we first realized that we were going to have to shut down, there was a sense of fear. But for me, I usually pull myself back a little just to separate myself from everything so you can kind of refocus on the issue. And after you do that, then you're able to kind of decide which direction you're going in, what areas do we need to address. I actually spent a whole week when we first closed just to reach out to other business owners to see what, you know, they were doing, reach out to our bank, you know, you troubleshoot all those things. So yeah, it helped calm me when I found out answers, and it actually helped me map out a plan for us to go forward. And it's been really helpful, to be honest with you. But yeah, fear is rough and you can't let it get to you. You just got to keep moving on.
Yeah, one foot in front of the other, right?
Exactly.
All right. Okay, Summer Shiigi, we don't want to ever be insulting by any means, but you have actually said that you had kind of a lack of knowledge in your industry when you began. So how have you since used that to benefit your company and your overall success?
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I don't have any formal training in design. Like if a button fell off my shirt, I don't even know how to sew it back on. So I think not having that background surprisingly made me a better business owner and maybe even a better designer. From the beginning, I knew I was going to need a team. I had to outsource everything, pattern cutting, sewing. So it gave me this deep appreciation for the process and kind of helped me evolve and learn on the journey, um, which I think I built into the company culture about evolution and learning and growing. And then as far as being a better designer, I didn't have any clear direction when I started. I didn't know what my voice was. I didn't know what my brand would be, but I have a really strong background in retail. So it was kind of nice that my customers helped shape the brand. And instead of dealing with that constant creativity versus consumerism, it was nice and I think a new approach to let your customer help and be involved in that process. So I think, yeah, being a better business owner and designer.
Perfect and perfectly timed. I know everybody's seen hold up these little signs here, but we would want to respect everybody's time tonight. Okay, thank you very much, Summer. Gayla, historically women are meant to kind of be in these pods, to be together, raise children together, cook together, empower each other. But at times we find that doesn't happen. So have you ever experienced women not empowering women? And what are your thoughts on actually doing that and on empowering other women?
Well, I think it's, owning your own business in general, male or female, is just really challenging to begin with. And like the stats that Leslie mentioned earlier tonight, we're definitely not as privileged as our male counterparts in many areas. And so when, women are born as nurturers, we like to care. We carry different emotions, I think, than men. We're also better receivers of emotions. And so whenever you can kind of get that from another woman, a business owner, it's just really reassuring to kind of keep you on path. I haven't personally necessarily felt any opposite of empowering from another woman. If you're a competitor, you're a competitor, male or female. So I'm sure there's that, but I don't think it has gone against me because I am a female. But my thing on that is whatever you can give out, I believe in karma kind of comes back. So I'm all about empowering other women owners. I know we're faced with a big set of challenges. And so positivity is kind of key for me. And if I can dish that out, hopefully I get a lot of positive vibes back in my life, in my business as well.
100% agree with you there. Okay, thank you very much. Leslie, obviously local business consultant, small business owner, and your background in economics. What have you seen, I guess, anecdotally happening here in Hawaii?
Sure. Yeah. And, as I mentioned in my presentation, there's very narrow data sets at the local level, such as the gender level data. It's just not published frequently here in the States. So this is definitely anecdotally, but I have seen many of my friends and fellow business owners struggle during this time, as everybody has recounted here, as their businesses were forced closed by county and state level rules that sometimes seemed contradictory at best, confusing and burdensome. I've also seen innovation, collaboration, and women who are truly taking care of business, forging new relationships with other fellow small business owners, with politicians to get some of these rules and things looked at, and within their communities. Women tend to be light on their toes. They can pivot, as I think everyone has used the word pivot, and they do. So I have definitely seen increased interest and, of course, reliance on online shopping, social media. And one area that I would encourage people to consider, particularly if during pre-COVID times your business saw a lot of tourists, specifically Japanese tourists, you might consider looking at exporting. Once things are starting to get back, extending your market if you already have that foothold with the tourists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And of course, we don't want to exclude any men because I'm sure there are men here in this tonight. So thank you to the men. We appreciate you, of course. We're going to bring back around to Dr. Summer Chong once again, and just kind of a fun question. I mean, obviously, probably every single one of us have been on a Zoom call. We're here now. And so we're all staring at ourselves in this, low quality camera and probably seeing extra wrinkles and whatever. So we need all the self-care tips we can get to empower those who are in attendance. So please give us some tips from your expertise.
Well, you already gave away my top one, which is, I'm going to say, wear sunscreen, of course, all day, every day. Even if you're not leaving your house, you're working from home, sunscreen is one of the best anti-aging topicals that we have. The sun is responsible for 90% of premature aging. So all those fine lines and wrinkles are going to come out more if you're not protecting yourself. And then I always say tinted sunscreen is actually another added tip I have. We're learning from research that high energy visible light coming from our computer screens, our phones, are actually very damaging for the skin. So iron oxide, which is the tint in sunscreen, can actually protect you from that damage. Those are my tips.
Okay, I didn't realize. You think about it, yeah, it makes sense that all of these screens and these lights are damaging to our skin. Okay, well, thank you very much. Bernice, now you actually competed in the Maui Classic bodybuilding competition. What does it take to do that? What are some of the characteristic traits that you use to compete in this that you feel also actually carry over into your business?
I've competed in a few competitions. I think this last one in Maui was my 11th one. So it definitely is a journey every single time, but it does take a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of early mornings, sometimes when you don't even want to get up, and do your exercise and be consistent. I think consistency is a huge thing, especially in business, and also doing a lot of the things that are required, like cleaning the bathrooms and, things like that. But and also having a martial arts academy, you got to do a little bit more cleaning because guys don't really care. So I'll be honest. But also working with a great team. I've had my own coaches, and I believe that in business, when you have a great team to support you, my husband is my chef, and I have a dietitian as my coach. So when you work with a great team, I think in business, it just makes everything work so much better.
Great. And I feel you, girl. I got a jujitsu husband, so I get the cleaning. I need to turn him into my chef, though. I don't know. I need some tips on that. All right, Deidre, obviously, okay, diversity been topping the headlines, for especially in this past year. But you're really big on celebrating diversity, not only of your customers, but also your employees. So how do you do that specifically to celebrate their diversity?
Well, like you said, I mean, diversity right now is such it's so important right now just because of what we're going through. There's been a lot of division, especially with the political climate, election coming up. So I think with diversity, it's about respecting and appreciating each other's differences, whether if it's skin color, age, gender, ethnicity, and so on, right? So at Zolash Pro, we want to make sure that everybody feels and knows that being different makes us beautiful, right? So for instance, for lashes, for example, that's one of our services we do. We're going to offer our clients custom lash sets, right? We're going to make sure that these lash sets fit their personal style, their lifestyle, their face structure, their eye shape, and so on. So by appreciating each other's differences, we really are able to service and make our clients kind of feel and believe they are beautiful inside and out.
I love that. And I have to apologize because I think I said Zoe Lash Pro. I worked really hard at making sure I said Deidre, and I got it wrong. So Zoe Lash.
It's Zoe. Yeah,
okay,
but my dog's name is Zoe. So
well, I got something right. Okay. All right, Jan, some people don't even realize that you were actually an event planner before. How did you leverage your experience and bring it over into Hawaiian Pie Company?
In a sense, it was actually good that I have that background. Event planning, you're always looking forward, you're looking at the end results and what have you. So you're able to visualize what you want, how you want it. It's really helped on the researching. You know, I'm always researching, looking for new trends. So that's helped us out a lot. You're always managing a budget. So, you know, those are the little things that have really made a difference as far as running a business. But the balls are always up in the air, and, you know, you just have to especially in an event, you're always kind of trying to, you know, you're in it, you plan it, you have the timeline, you're going for it, and things happen. But we always have that backup plan or what have you. So anytime we're working on a project, we always have some what if situation that we go to. And I think during these times of COVID, you know, it's fortunate to have that because we're able to adjust a little quicker, I think, you know, either through researching or through whatever, you know, means you are able to make a quicker decision rather than, you know, sitting on something and waiting. So that's been really beneficial for us.
Absolutely. We that quick adjustment. Thank you so much. All right, Summer Shiigi, as I mentioned earlier, women tend to be, you know, better at collaboration. We tend to, you know, huddle together and encourage each other. Can you share some of your collaboration tips and secrets to success?
Yeah, sure. I love collaboration, and I definitely wouldn't be here today without the help and mentoring that I've received along the way. And I loved what Gayla said. I think that kind of put it perfectly. I think as women, we care more. We're more empathic. When we have an idea and we come together, we are a force to be reckoned with, and it can be a really powerful thing for when women come together. But as far as tips and secrets go, I don't know if it's a secret, but just from my experience, I value just really getting to know people. And before COVID, I used to say it all the time, just get to know people offline. Now it's more online. But what I mean by that is just getting past, you know, the social media and the email hellos, and find out where someone's going, what they're doing, what their goals are. And I think organically things kind of come about. Our best collabs have just been friends getting together and doing something fun that we both want to do. Our most recent one was the virtual trunk show, and I partnered with Morgan from Potera Jewelry, and it ended up being wildly successful. And we're going to do it again for the holidays. So I'm really, really excited.
Right, those relationships, the most important thing. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Gayla, I'm sure there are people watching tonight who maybe have an idea or are thinking, gosh, I want to be a business owner like these women. What advice would you have for those who might be thinking that or even considering it?
I think the best advice I give is you have to believe in yourself. And if you're passionate about something and you really think you can do it, there's going to be people that will disencourage you, that won't support you. And you can't let that stop you. I think you just have to forge ahead and really kind of, if you're committed to something, go for it. There's challenges, there's obstacles. I've witnessed, you know, businesses in our neighborhood, you know, some have not done so well, some have opened up. There's a lot of people opening and starting a business during this pandemic. So you shouldn't let something like this stop you from pursuing your dreams. It's going to take a lot of hard work. But the way I look at it, I mean, when I first opened my first business, everybody told me not to do it. Everybody. I had business consultants, family members, legal advice. They all told me I was crazy. That was like over 15 years ago. And I've owned my business ever since. This is my 4th business that I'm owning. So my encouragement, and now I could never work for somebody else. I'm pretty much unemployed at this point. I could only be a self-employed. So stick to your guns, believe in yourself, stay committed, and go for it.
Well, I personally thank you, especially because you gave us some malasadas here tonight. So we are especially saying, yes, we appreciate you going for that dream. All right, thank you. Leslie, you've had a number of webinars, and obviously we have to have those right now since the pandemic began. Can you speak to actually creating these with sort of this corporate responsibility in mind?
Yeah, you know, I think there's an opportunity to get involved in whatever way makes sense to somebody individually. We all have our unique skill sets and attributes. In hosting webinars and before the pandemic, in-person events and similar, I saw upfront and personal how often women are completely overlooked. They're not even considered in having a place at the table often, and it's not due to bad intentions. It's a reflection of the male-dominated industries and the circles that they occupy. So I would say, just sort of broadly, making sure that for diversity in the spaces that each of us occupies, asking specifically for women, people of color, whatever diversity means in your space, and to have those people included. It doesn't have to be confrontational, because often it's really not bad intentions. It's just people relying too heavily on their intimate social circles and not really thinking outside of that. And I've done this a number of times and found that people tend to thank me because they didn't realize they were leaning so heavily on their very small circle. Plus, I just refuse to produce an event that skews so heavily to men without at least trying to get some female. So.
Okay, thank you very much for that. All right, well, we're going to turn it now over to our Q&A portion where our audience has weighed in. And so we have a couple of questions here. Let's see here. Breaking away from the pandemic mindset, which personal quality and why do you feel is the most integral to your success as a businesswoman? So this is a question that's coming from a non-business owning non-woman. Oh, so let's see, who should we send this over to? Does anybody have a?
I would comment really briefly on that. I would say one of the most critical components is being willing to learn, because I think, as you know, Summer said, she didn't have a background at learned so many things along the way. I think that sometimes there tends to be this feeling that we have to kind of protect ourselves, so we don't want to admit that we don't know something, but that is the opposite of a recipe for success. So I would say that willingness to learn and to say, like, I need some help, I need some additional resources.
Okay, great. Anybody else want to weigh in on that one? We're good? Okay. We have one from Megan Chun. Firstly, well, thank you for hosting the panel. You are so welcome from everybody who is doing that tonight. All right, we have two questions. As a small business owner, or as small business owners, if you had to do it all over again, what would you have done differently to navigate COVID more efficiently? So that's the first question. Anybody have any tips on what you would do differently?
I can I guess I can join in. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would have just totally restructured the way I did my staffing. Because staffing is really hard. I mean, it's not so hard now because we are in COVID and there's a ton of applicants that are applying for jobs and looking for work. Luckily, we were able to keep all of our staff members, and we actually hired during the pandemic. But I was able to kind of screen that whole process. But I think I would have planned my labor part of it a little differently, not knowing how hard it was going to be to find good help. Because good help is key in running a successful business, especially the food and service industry, because you want to be open preferably 7 days a week pre-COVID. That's just my thoughts.
Okay. And has anybody spent money differently since COVID? So something maybe you didn't spend money on pre-COVID that you are now?
I know that for my business, since we've had to take everything online, we've had to get like selfie lights, cameras, a new laptop, AirPods, just all the audio visual things that would make the quality of our workouts a lot more efficient and effective.
Okay. I don't know, has everybody got that circle light now? Everybody has it, right? All right. Deidre, I want to send this one over to you. One of the top issues with women-owned businesses is actually balancing responsibilities. You have a ton of them. How do you balance owning your own company, serving as president of an organization, your family life, you know, whatever else you have on your table, I guess?
It's not easy. Yeah, it's really not easy. I don't know anybody that's a business owner that would say it was easy, but I think it's just a matter, like, you know, I struggle with it still, but I think I try to tell myself, I mean, it's a balance. When I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, you know, I have a tendency to go on social media and be busy then. So sometimes I just need to take a break. And I do find that if I'm just so overwhelmed with work, I get this, you know, you just get exhausted. You can just tell you're fatigued. So especially during these times where there's so much with just the businesses, with, you know, social media, with the environment, everybody's, you know, stress, and there's a lot of tension. I think it's just important to just be able to do the things you love and take a break.
Absolutely. And Dr. Chong, I also want to come back to you on this question as well, because you have twins, beautiful 2-year-old twins. And, you know, myself as a mom trying to balance all of this stuff, what do you do? And how do you stay so darn beautiful doing it?
Well, I mean, it's definitely difficult. I think, like Deidre said, I'm still trying to figure it out myself. A lot, just time management. And, you know, as she said, you know, do work at work, and when you try to go home, you try to make time strictly for the family and leave everything else, you know, I try to leave it at work, although sometimes it's impossible. But once again, just making time for the things that are important to you, I think, is the best advice that I have.
Love that. Okay, thank you. Jan, I know that having a robust support network is really important for this entrepreneurial success. Do you have any mentors or anybody who has given you advice to enhance your personal, professional growth? And then what tips would you have for us to actually create or build a support network?
You know, I have a lot of good friends and that have several really good mentors that I learned from when I was getting into the business. The sports marketing business in specifically there, and they taught me a lot of things as far as, you know, how to manage myself, as you know, because the business is tough. It's not an easy one. Being a female and you're dealing with sports is another thing that you're challenged with. So they told me to always surround myself with really good people that I can talk to, people that to this day, I will call on friends to just, you know, if I'm having a bad day, I'll call them and say, hey, you know, I just need to talk, or I can't get through this problem, and they'll always help me, and it goes both ways. So I always try to be there for my friends and my colleagues just to make sure that they're okay. Lately, I've been doing the check-ins with everybody. So every day I call or I text or I email somebody, and, you know, just to say, hey, how are you doing? And it's a good break for me. I take that time away just to do that.
Okay, I know whose door I'm gonna knock on when I need a job. I'm telling you.
Sure, anytime.
Thank you so much. All right, Summer Shiiki, I want to come over to you. As a consumer and a customer, what is truly the most valuable to you as a business owner that comes from the consumer? So basically, you know, we have things like Yelp, we have word of mouth, we have all of these things, buying products and services. What is the thing that is the most valuable to you?
Oh my gosh. You know, obviously buying our product, but I think there's so much more than that. All the things, even just a shout out on social media, sharing a post, sharing with your friends. Coconut Wireless is real here in Hawaii, and we get so many customers just based on referral. So any little bit helps. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, and then we're taking one last question here that came in from someone, and I'm just gonna direct this to all of our speakers here tonight. How can your customers truly help small businesses during this time? What are some of the most important things that they can be doing to help the small businesses stay afloat? Because I know every little thing counts. So I'm gonna actually go to Dr. Chong first, Dr. Summer Chong. What one thing would you say that people can do to help your business stay afloat at this point?
You know, I would say, you know, don't cancel your appointments. Don't put it off. You know, your health is important. And we do offer telemedicine too. So even if you don't feel comfortable coming in, there are other ways that, you know, you can stay connected to us.
Okay, thank you so much. And Bernice, what workouts do we have to do? No, what is the one thing that we can do to help you stay afloat? Uh-oh, I think you're muted.
There you go. There is a petition that is out right now that is saying that gyms are essential. So if you can find that and sign that for us, please. So, also, social media is super effective for our business. So sharing and those type of things.
Do you have that petition on your social media? Are we able to find it there?
Yeah, I can put it on there.
Okay, that'll be good. Thank you. All right, Deidre, what can we do to help your business? Well, aside from just letting us open it, what can we do?
You know, I think being in tier 2 and not tier 1, we're asking everybody, not just our clients, but just even our followers in social media, to please email our governor, our mayor, lieutenant governor, or whoever you can to get us into the same group as the hair salons, nail salons, and the barbers. There's no reason why we should be separated. We feel we're all under the Board of Cosmetology. And so we'd like to be at least in the tier 1 groups in case we ever have to go back, that we would be able to be in that group and still be open.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are some of the cleanest places to be. I mean, you're
exactly.
All right. Okay. Okay, Jan, buy more pies. Jan, what can we do to help you?
Just social media is a really good thing for us. Just getting the word out. That's been really helpful for us. Join our e-marketing campaign. We actually see a bump in sales when people, we do a weekly email blast to people, believe it or not, just to feature our specials. And that we see a huge bump in sales right when that email goes out. But yeah, anything that you can. We also provide product to Hawaiian Airlines, and they really, really, really need the support. So if you could support Hawaiian, it would be a great thing for all of us.
Agree. My husband's a pilot. Please support them. All right. Not making this about me or anything. All right. What can we do to help your business during this time?
I am part of a really great neighborhood. Come to Kaimuki. We are full of locally owned small businesses. It's an easy walkable neighborhood. Beaky bikes just came in. So there's lots of reasons to come and spend the day. You can get your coffee, you could get your desserts, you could get your fashion, and there's a bookstore, gift store. So we're just a really great neighborhood. So come visit us.
I agree. And it's only getting better, right?
Right. Yes.
So get your clothes at 10 tomorrow and walk next door to Pipeline Bake Shop.
Yep.
What can we do?
Well, I'm going to play off of Summer's thing. I think for me, specifically, it would just be, placing your orders. But I think more importantly than just our small business, it's just about our Hawaii small businesses in general. I think need all of our support. And I think that if we can all just support local, stem away from online, like major big shop boxes, corporations, the Walmarts, the Targets, the Costcos, those guys don't have any kind of regulations. And they're going to really ultimately affect the small business here. So I think I'm looking more so just about our economy, being a local girl from Honolulu. I just want to see our little mom and pop survive. Because if these big corporations come in and take over, then it's really going to wipe out our neighborhoods and our communities. And I think that's really what makes Hawaii so special. So my request would just be to support all local businesses, whether it's your local dermatology, your fashion designer, your fitness gym, your pie company, your bakery, clothing, anything you can do, support local as much as you can. Your coffee shop, we got a great coffee shop across the street. Coffee Talk's been there for 25 years. And that's kind of like the things that we need to do is think about the little guys. Yeah.
I agree. Guy Hoggy just featured them on Cheap Eats. So that's coming up soon. So.
Nice.
I love Coffee Talk. Okay, awesome. And Leslie, you're such a woman of service, giving us so much. So what can we do to help you?
Yeah, I would say broadly, I just wanted to echo what Gayla said. I don't know if everyone's aware of this statistic, but during the pandemic, while so many people were facing unemployment, billionaires, many of them got richer. So people are still spending money. And I would definitely encourage people to look in their local communities first, because as everybody has said, our local community businesses are really struggling. And for those that haven't yet closed, many are facing looming closures. I would say for me specifically, I'm a service-based business. So of course, like purchasing services is fantastic, but also just word of mouth, the Coconut Wireless, I think somebody mentioned earlier, that's a real thing here. So I guess probably broadly for small businesses, helping them purchasing product and services is number one, keeps them in business. And then letting everybody know how great they are would probably be number two.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think that wraps up our session for the Q&A. Ladies, thank you so much for allowing me to be able to do what I do and ask questions for a living. I appreciate all of your answers tonight and your mana'o and just your beautiful faces and encouragement here tonight. So thank you. I'm going to send it on over back to Sherry.
Great. Thank you so much. And Kanoe, thank you for your excellent and outstanding moderating skills. And to our panelists and the women, all women out there, just for your grit, your passion, your pure determination, and not giving up during this most challenging time, certainly admirable. And I agree with what the speaker said, support local, especially during this time. So mahalo to all of you, as well as mahalo to the Hawaii Agriculture Foundation, Denise Yamaguchi, for her leadership. It was a pleasure partnering with you and your team.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you to all of you ladies who joined us tonight. Thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for partnering with us tonight for this episode of Eat, Think, Drink, and supporting women-owned businesses. For those of you who are able to add on, this is called Eat, Think, Drink, and while you guys have all been working, I've been eating and drinking and watching you lovely ladies. We want to thank you for your order because you've helped a lot of local restaurants, as well as the Hawaii Agriculture Foundations. All the proceeds from the orders go back to supporting our programs, which helps farmers and our educational programs in the community. I also want to thank our featured Food to Go restaurants, FET, Miley's Thai Bistro, The Pizza Press, Nico's Kailua, Moani Island Bistro and Bar, Hali'i Miley General Store, Down the Hatch, Eating House 1849 at the Shops at Kukui'ula, and Kona Brewing Company, Kona Pub on the island of Hawaii. Before we sign off, we have a few winners to announce for our lucky draw. Okay, we have 3 winners, 3 $50 gift cards to Kona Brewing Company. And our winners are Kobe Sameshima, Holly Iwasaki, and Gianna Textera. And we have 1 pie or 4 mini pies from Hawaiian Pie Company, and that goes to Katie Arita Chang. And our $25 gift certificate and face mask from 10 Tomorrow goes to Susan Iverson. And we have 1 personal training session from the Mango Tree Fitness, goes to Melindy Fickle. And we have 1 Muay Thai session from the Mango Tree Fitness, which goes to Maribel Avery. Congratulations to all of you. We hope you enjoy your prizes. Oh, there's 2 more? I'm sorry, there's 2 more. I didn't go down far enough. There's a $100 gift card from Zoe Lash Pro. Zoe Lash Pro, I'm sorry. Charmaine Vegas, and 1 dozen malasadas and $25 gift card from Pipeline Bake Shop and Creamery, Michelle Katishiro. Congratulations to all of you. We hope you enjoy your prizes. The information on how you can claim your prize will be in the chat box. And for all of you on Oahu, we've partnered with Eggs Hawaii to give all of you a dozen eggs from Hawaiian Made or Kale eggs. We'll send out an email with more information on how you can collect your eggs. On behalf of the Hawaii Agriculture Foundation, mahalo for joining us tonight and enjoy the rest of your evening.